Hi guys, it's the old Doctor Who show again. It's episode number 126, so you don't have to.
Go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine. You couldn't control my mind before, and you certainly can't control it now.
Would you like a jelly, baby?
The TARDIS, when working properly, is capable of many amazing things.
Reverse the polarity of the neutron flows, and the TARDIS will be free of the force field.
But the TARDIS is more than a machine. It's a divinity, but a person, you see.
Resulting reaction, describe it. Are you ready?
Welcome back to the old Doctor Who show, your tri-weekly classic Doctor Who review podcast. Coming at you, coming in your ear holes. This is Eric, one half of the unit that is. If you had a unit, and who doesn't have a unit? Unit, Dan.
I guess I'm the other half of your unit, Eric.
Well,
Dan,
you're my left bridge to my Stewart.
Oh, sure.
You're my Benton to my Yates.
Uh-huh.
No, I'm your Benton to your Yates.
We don't actually know which is Benton, which is Yates, so we're not very good at this.
Well, we better know, because both of them play a role in the adventure Last of the Dinosaur Mohicans. Spiders. Spider dinosaur
Spider-saurs.
Spider-saurs.
Eric.
Spider-saurs. Toy companies, take note. Spider-saurs. They're half dinosaur, half spiders. I think you just hit a $1 billion idea, Dan.
Yep, we're going to quit the show.
Dan, have you seen The Batman, Dan?
I have not seen any. I haven't been to a theater yet. I'm going to a theater soon.
It's very good.
Oh.
If you want some
I heard
emo
it's very
with
long.
your Batman, it's not long. I mean, it is long, time-wise, but I didn't feel that it felt long. I was happy to be in that world. It's for fans of the comics, and I would say the, Dark Knight Returns era, year one, Long Halloween, like that whole Batman comic world this is probably the best rendition of that we've had on film. Anyway, it's gritty, depressing. It's like emoed out.
Yeah.
I don't want to. Were we doing a review of the Batman?
I guess
it
so.
It focuses more on trauma. It doesn't have the playboy nature of Bruce Wayne. He's more of the damaged person. It's great. If you like Zodiac too, it's got heavily borrows from some David Fincher as far as the aesthetic and the look and whatever. It's fine. We're not here to talk about the Batman. That could be another conversation.
Is it worth going and reading some of the Batman Year One stuff?
If you haven't read the Frank Miller book, or I think it was 4 issues or something, but you can get it collected Year One. It's great.
Yeah,
I would definitely. And Dark Knight Returns, I'm assuming you read. That's sort of a staple. But yeah, I love Batman Year One.
Actually, I think I had to read Dark Knight Returns for school. But
I also love Batman Gothic. Batman Gothic is very good. Written by Grant Morrison with art by Klaus Janson. That is a very cool, and I find underappreciated Batman story personally.
Huh.
Arkham Asylum, also Grant Morrison and Dave McKean. To tie back into our Sandman podcast, that won't happen because, let's be honest, we didn't hear from anybody.
So no one was interested in it except us. Actually, we weren't even all that interested.
The
but
audience
I'm still reading
is not clamoring for that.
I have read the Sandman entire beginning to end twice before.
Okay.
I am reading it my third time now. I'm up to A Game of You, and whenever I started it, I had no idea what that story was about. I completely forgot so much.
Oh, really?
Of this. Like, I just couldn't. I remembered that Seasons of Mist was one of my favorites, if not my favorite. Well, I love The Wake, but Seasons of Mist was wonderful, so I just got through that. But Game of You is so good.
I like Game of You a lot.
One of the things, maybe... Are we turning into a comics podcast?
We're going to talk about comics podcast, but it all connects. Honestly, I discovered Neil Gaiman and Sandman because I liked Batman. Because it actually started with Doom Patrol, and I found Doom Patrol, and I was like, this is great. Who wrote this? Grant Morrison. What else did he do? Oh, he did this Batman comic, Arkham Asylum, with Dave McKean. This art's amazing. What else did this artist do?
So much.
Oh, Violent Cases with him and Dave McKean. Who's Neil Gaiman? Sandman. It's all connected.
Yep. It is. It's a small world when you get into it.
It's a small world. You're drawn out like a child, like a simpleton coming through the window, reaching for your crystal.
Comic book crystals.
This is us just drawing on parchment. Child drawings. Go, Dan.
I find it... The only thing I still, after all this time, find that I don't like about the Sandman comics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I may agree with you before you even say anything.
You don't know what I'm going to say. You don't know what I'm going to say.
Okay. All right.
My problem is it's too good. No, it's... I like some of the artists much better than others, and whenever you're in one story and from book to book you switch artists, and it doesn't, not for necessarily any reason that serves the story. Like, you could switch artists so that the style reflects that you're in a different, whatever, in the story, it reflects the tone or something, but it just felt, in a lot of cases, where it's just switching between artists for no reason, and I found it jarring, and I really don't enjoy that.
Well, I mean, they fell into a pattern of artists per arc.
No, in this one they do not.
Right?
In season, no, that's actually not true at all. In Seasons of Mist,
I can't remember.
There was a bunch of back and forth.
Who are the artists?
It
doesn't matter.
Because it actually, I'm reading.
Seasons of Mist is pretty early, right? That's the one where, I don't know. This is not a spoiler. Dream goes to hell. That's Seasons of Mist.
That's in the middle. That's pretty much in the middle. That's one. Yes.
But they do eventually get to a thing where it's like one artist per thing, and I think a lot of that is, I'm sure it started with just time. Takes so long to draw a book, trying to crank out a monthly book, and Mike Dringenberg, who started with Sam Keith, and then he was the inker, and then he became the artist. I love his style; he's awesome. But there's no way he could.
I don't want to say I don't like their styles. I don't like that it's jarring to go from one issue to the next in the same story where the art is so radically different. I really noticed it in Game of You. It went from this style that maybe it's also because I have to go look. The artist who kicks that series off does, I think, the first 2 issues, and I love the penciling style. I love it. It's beautiful. And then the next one, it's just a much rougher sort of style, really sketchy, very shaky lines and everything. And I just didn't appreciate that style so much. On its own, it's fine, but juxtaposed with the other, I didn't like them next to each other. Towards the end, you start getting a lot of the same artist going through it, and I don't know. It just felt weird. But I'm not like a huge person to begin with. So this is the one kind of full series that I know from beginning to end. And I don't really do that with a lot of other books anyway. So maybe it's standard, but in this case, I don't really enjoy it.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay, it's been a while. It's been like 3 weeks since I read it, because I am also rereading it. I'm much farther off than you.
Yeah.
At this point, I thought you were going to say you don't like the single self-contained stuff as much, since you're such like a mythology
that is
based
true
person, and sometimes
they tend to be very good. Well, we talked about this too.
Like Dream Country, I think you went through before. That's right before Game of You.
So many seeds, and it the characters return or calls back to previous characters, so it's not entirely self-contained.
No,
which is, for me, like the perfect kind of blend. You can do kind of a one-off story, but it still connects to the overall mythology that it's establishing. It's just so funny, like, it's not until Seasons of Mist that we even start to see anyone besides Death and Dream. That's the first time we see Destiny and the rest of them. And they start hinting at destruction being gone.
Yeah.
I forget how long it takes until you even get to that.
Yeah, everything he does
is a long time.
Yeah, everything he does is great. It's like every part, it's full of seeds and things that one character is a minor character and then they become a major character. Mm-hmm. I love A Game of You. I'm looking up the thing. Like, Sean McManus is the penciler through pretty much all of them. In the middle, Colleen Doran does an issue. And then Brian Talbot is also on the 4th or 5th one with Sean McManus. But it is pretty consistent with one artist, except for that Bad Moon Rising episode. It looks like it's Colleen Doran.
That's actually, that is the one.
So that is a pretty, it's like, okay.
And it's just a stark difference.
But it doesn't matter. We're not doing it.
That's great.
I mean, we are doing Sandman podcast.
We're not doing it, but now
right
we're doing
now
it.
when it's
So
happening.
I hope you've enjoyed this past 10 minutes, folks.
Yes.
I hope we skip ahead.
Everyone's
Eric,
like,
we're not
I don't
here.
understand. How did we? What did
Oh,
I?
but I will say- I will
they're
say this.
checking the feed and they're like, come on.
I will say this to our listeners. If you haven't read The Sandman, and it seems like something you might be interested in, please go back and get it. What I was looking for was, I have most of the trade paperbacks collections, then I have single issues. I can't find my actual trades right now, and I'm not going to pull out I'm not at the single issues yet, so I'm not going to read them. I was looking for the collections, the Absolute Sandman or the other omnibus collections. They're either A, hard to find, or B, incredibly expensive. If you want to read them for a cheaper option and still get a complete run of them with all the extras and whatever, the 30th anniversary editions are available for Kindle for something like $40 or $50 for all 11 compilations. It is worthwhile. It's beautifully done. It includes the recolorizations that came later for the first story arc. It's fantastic.
Well,
Highly recommend checking
I
out.
would say to you, not that it's cheap, but I think they've reissued all of the Absolute editions, so they're like back in print. But you are looking at $100.
But each one, yeah, exactly.
But they're huge and they're beautiful.
Yeah,
Except
I do
a little nitpick. My volume 2 binding is falling apart. It's like literally falling apart, and that's a little depressing. And I've heard that is an issue with. I'm not the only one that had that.
I'm fine to have it digitally because I also do have it physical someplace. I at least have my single issues.
But you can't
So I
kill
was fine
someone
to
with
get
a
that.
digital copy. Like
You
you
can't what?
literally, this would be like the perfect murder. Like actually, it wouldn't. It would be blunt force trauma, and they'd have the. It's not a good. I'm not good at planning murders, but it is a beautiful looking book that could be a weapon, as long as you play your cards right. And while we're talking about Sandman, Sam Keith, who started it off, who does one of my favorite animated cartoons of all time, was a cartoon called The Max, based on his comic book,
yeah.
The Max. Awesome. I would highly recommend that. But he started the book with Neil Gaiman. He's like the original artist. And I love Mike Dringenberg a lot, who was the inker and then took over. But there's something about Sam Keith's border designs. Like when you read like the very first issue of Sandman, all of our listeners are now going back and reading Sandman. So
Thank you guys for doing that.
Thank you for doing that. But that first issue, there's so many cool details in how he does his panel breakdowns. Like Splat, I think it's the Splat, I'm not looking at it, but from memory, I think the splash page of when Dream is pulled in and he's lying there with the helm and everything.
Iconic.
The border around the thing, I remember being all intricately detailed and like really cool detail. He's great at that. And go watch The Max. And speaking of that, have you also watched Planet of the Spiders?
No, I was
did.
too busy reading The Sandman to watch this.
It's fine. So that's you guys, you voted with your by not
Silence.
saying anything, and so we just forced it on you anyway. So we had a little bit of Sandman. I could talk a lot more about Sandman. I got many more things to say, but it's good, and obviously, I'm not going to apologize for something good. I'm not going to be mad that I talked about something good. All right, let's hit the button.
Oh, I will.
Go.
One last aside before we
Yes.
go. I use the TARDIS Wikia the thing on fandom.com.
Sure you do.
That's where
Sure you
instead of
do.
Wikipedia.
We all do.
There is one for Sandman, and there's a lot of empty information in here. And I'm just saying, if you wanted to take over an entire portion of the internet, Eric, we could just
The last
jump right
thing I
in
have
here.
is time, my friend. I have finished my next graphic novel as far as the script done. Huge. It's a lot more pages than I've ever written. Now I'm working on another thing related to that and another thing related to that. So my time for writing is 100% locked in to my own crap. However, you could do these things, and you could somehow incorporate us into them. I don't know.
I'm just going to casually mention the old Doctor Who show in every article on the
Yes.
Sandman Wiki. It'll be fun.
And Unity Kincaid something, as mentioned on episode 126 that was supposed to be about Planet of the
pays
Spiders.
Off so well. It's set up in the very beginning, and it just
Going all the way back to the Doll's House. What I love about the Doll's House,
we're not.
Well, no, when you're in that house, you can see Coraline there, like the roots.
Yeah.
Well, I love
Absolutely.
Coraline as well, with the upstairs neighbor and the spider women. Like, it has that feel like you're like, you could see sort of where his mind will go later. Like, hit the button, Dan. Hit the button.
Fine.
It's not like Neil Gaiman's not connected to Doctor Who.
No, it's totally fine.
Or this episode, when we get into the other side of the hitting of the button, Planet of the Spiders, talking about the TARDIS being alive, being a person, then we get into the Doctor's wife, right? That's the name of the Neil
totally
Gaiman's
Doctor's
episode.
wife.
That's fine.
Yep.
Go, hit the button. Let's get on the other side of this. Why are they talking so much about funny books? Funny picture books.
Go. I command you, go.
I have come to give you the power you seek.
Power?
Turn around. Turn around, I say.
This is...
There's so much of that in this story. Go ahead, jump in. Sorry.
What?
That in this
Yes.
story with the,
There are. It's a lot of that. There's a lot of that in Planet of the Spiders.
Planet of the Spiders.
The fifth serial of the 11th season, lucky number 11, from 1974. Who can remember all the way back to 1974?
Not I.
I can, because I was born then.
You can remember your birth.
I
We've
can.
talked about
I
this.
have that thing where, because I was,
Eidetic memory,
when
you
I
just
was
can't.
born, my mother had ingested the water of life. And so I woke up with
Do you want to
all...
start our Dune podcast now,
Yes,
too? Or what do you want?
The Abomination, they called me. This is written by Robert Sloman and directed by Barry Letts. Mike Yates is going through some stuff, right? He's got it. He betrayed UNIT the last time we saw him, and now he's trying to find himself.
Came down with a case of the dinosaur shivers.
He's
and
got
just-
the dinosaur shivers. He had a bad run-in with the Green Death. So he's all messed up. Let's be honest. Mike Yates is all messed up. So he's where, when you get messed up, where do you go? You go to a Tibetan meditation house that's filled with surly-looking businessmen and drifters. Meanwhile, the Doctor goes to a talent show and decides to hang out with one of the participants, a scientist with ESP. But at the same time he's doing that, he gets a package from Joe Grant, and it's a crystal. Ooh. Yeah, from Metachlorians. He checks his Metachlorian count. His Metabilis 3 crystal came in the mail 3 weeks early. Thanks, Amazon. When the ESP gifted Doctor and the crystal meet,
Professor.
at the same time, the dirty dudes are in the basement doing heavily aggressive meditation. Listen, I've been meditating now for 3 years. It's not like that.
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I'm doing
if you're
it wrong.
If you're not conjuring spiders when you're meditating,
Yes.
you're not doing it right.
There's a lot of coincidences and things that happen in this particular story. We'll get to that. But all of these things happen at the same time, and it's spider time, baby. A spider comes and attaches to the backs of one of the dirty dudes, and it becomes a game of who's going to get the crystal and who's going to drive you home in the Doctor's flying car. Dan, why don't we kick this off to you? You can tell me what you thought of Planet of the Spiders, the 6-part adventure mystery. Well, not much of a mystery, really. Dan,
Oh, is it my
still
turn?
on?
I was transfixed by it. Yeah, this was 6 parts.
Yeah, it was.
And it was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot of. I actually think this was a lot of fun. This was a fun story. It was 100% Barry Letts giving Pertwee everything he could possibly want, all wrapped up in a bow in a final story as a send-off. There was just the ridiculous, almost entire episode-long chase sequence that we have with multiple vehicles.
It's like, oh, you think we're done with the vehicles?
Oh no!
Hold on,
vehicles,
and then they up it again. It's like that rule of 3. They just keep upping the stakes until you're in a flying car.
They got the Whomobile being chased by Bessie,
Yep.
being chased by a cop car. Then there's a helicopter. Are we done? No, we're gonna get another hovercraft. It's gonna go all over the place. It's gonna drive over a bum. It's fantastic.
They
It's so
do
much
run
happening.
over a poor guy passed out from booze.
He was
He's
just
just sitting there. I'm surprised he didn't do the old wipe his eyes routine when the hovercraft went over.
So that was fun. It's got huge turn left vibes, which obviously came later. The Donna Noble story when she has the thing on her back and she can't see it, and
Yep.
it's changing her life. But which was kind of fun to see. Like, oh, I guess they must have borrowed that entire concept from this story, which was fun. I really loved Turn Left. It's one of my favorite stories. So that's fun. A lot of Sarah Jane going crazy. She had a lot to do. Yates was actually a substantial part of the plot, which is kind of like unusual, but cool that he got to do that.
Yep.
We do have to talk about the miscasting of the Tibetan monks.
Oh, miscasting.
I don't know a gentle way to say
the-
this.
yeah.
The Mickey Rooney version
yeah.
of Breakfast at
Yep.
It's horrifying.
It's really poorly done.
Apparently, in 1974, there were no Asian
there was a
actors
shortage,
in
terrible
England.
shortage. Unfortunately,
not a single one.
Yep, and they had no choice but to
That's right.
result
They
to
couldn't-
skin
they couldn't rewrite it.
pigmentation changes.
That's
and
right.
one of the worst accents.
Terrible, absolutely terrible.
Now,
was offensive?
Was the Abbott also wearing makeup?
They both were.
He
I
at
think they were-
least like. If you didn't know, like if it was just him, like his accent or whatever he was trying to do wasn't really
the younger one or the older one?
the older one. The
Oh
Abbott,
yeah,
the
he
old
didn't
guy.
have any real accent.
He didn't
but
really have any accent.
He looked like he had eyes.
He
eye
probably
prosthetics.
did. But so like if you the first guy who was a projection of the last guy
Yes.
was the worst.
Chochi.
And he doesn't
Awful.
need to be in the story. There's
No,
so
it
many
could've
elements
just
of
been
this
the Abbott
story
the entire time.
Yeah, you don't need him.
would've been
But
fine.
yeah, I don't know. Should we table that
I
for
guess
the
it
problematic
was really,
section?
really upsetting. Like, just either not. But the whole thing is predicated. It's not just the actors that are cast inappropriately. The whole thing is just leaning into these Orientalism tropes that I guess maybe in 1974. Hey, I wasn't even born yet. I'm barely even in my 20s. That was maybe just in the zeitgeist because they're talking about meditation. And it's all over
This
the place.
whole,
People are talking
this
about it. So
entire
it's
thing was
just
like
so-
someone just reaching into the zeitgeist and just pulling out like whatever.
Everything.
Like, you guys like, Flowers for Algernon? We'll add
got
that.
that for you.
That's part of this. You
Y'all
want to do
into
meditation?
crystals?
That's part of it.
Crystal science, baby. We got that
Yeah.
going. We got
ESP.
it was just-
ESP's all the rage.
Yeah.
Let's have
Well,
that
I gotta
as part
say,
of it.
That part just warmed my heart. When I was a kid, so, I was born in 76. When I was a kid going to the library, reading a lot of books and seeing movies and films from the 70s, there was a huge chunk of my childhood where I was obsessed with, like, Uri Geller and all of, like, the telekinesis stuff. Like, this part is just... The Tomorrow People. That's the original version of this. Do you remember that show?
No, what is that?
Oh my goodness. It was a British show, fairly short-lived. Maybe some people that are listening to this know this show. But in the U.S., it would appear on Nickelodeon in the evening. So there was this series of British shows they would alternate between. It was this one, The Tomorrow People, like The Haunting of Cassie Palmer. There was another, like, and they were all these sci-fi kind of, or, horror geared towards kids. The Tomorrow People, it was great. A group of psychically enabled humans. They're the next evolution of the human species. It lays dormant in everyone, but these people have been awakened, and they have this computer system called Tim that assists them in finding others that are breaking through with their... Anyway, it's great. They tried to reboot it twice, and it never took. But it has that entire feel, the entire zeitgeist of like... Anyway, that was my tangent. We go into something else. Want to go back to Sandman?
please. No, but that's like 100%. Like that error was, you've got, everyone has it in their brain. We only use whatever 10% of our brain.
Yeah.
And like they make a point of saying, the doctor's like, you're not a freak. We all have this ability. Only you've unlocked it or whatever. But okay, are you done? Do you have anything to say? Any more to say? I don't want to start.
No, I'm done with it. There's nothing left. Do you want to end the show?
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done. No, I have mixed feelings. I liked it, obviously. Because it's crazy, and there's so much to process, and there's so many goofy, funny things that are awesome. But as a story, like, it's so contrived, and like just these things that don't need to be. First off, 6 parts. No, could have been 4 parts.
Yep.
That second episode of, and it's Pertwee's last run, it's great. It didn't need to be 20 minutes of car chase. Every cliffhanger to the next story is 2 minutes that you got to rewatch.
It started doing that at the beginning. I noticed it because like 6-parter, it's going to be like a full 2 minutes of the reprise before it gets into the story. In the beginning, it really wasn't. At the end, it 100% was.
Yeah,
we have to talk about the transition from 5 into 6.
5 into 6 was interesting too because it wasn't in the same order. So you got scenes, which is kind of cool that at least they were like, okay, now you're going to get a different perspective, but see the same time played out, like what was happening with Sarah at that time or whatever.
It was really effective, but it was completely not intentional, and I wish they would do more of it. So I was reading about that because like this is very odd. I've never seen that before in 126 classic stories I reviewed.
Stories,
but apparently that it was just running. The 6th episode was running very short on time. So even just padding with the previously on the recap being like a minute to 2 minutes, that wasn't enough. So these scenes had been left scrapped because they weren't happy with the way the effects were working, and they're like, well, we don't have the time, so they just threw them back in. But I think it was super effective, like you said. So you got to see in the cliffhanger a set of events, and then in the opening reprise you see the same events but from a different perspective and inserted. I thought it was really effective. I don't know why they don't do that more often. It was really cool.
Yeah, and I nearly missed like sections because usually when that happens I will fast forward because I'm watching these one after the other, and then I was like, oh, I don't remember this part, so I went back and that was kind of interesting. But like, it opens with, I guess let's start at part 1.
Sure.
Right? So it opens, and are they watching a dancing woman remove clothes or something? I texted you at the time, like, are they at a strip? Does it open with the doctor at a strip club? They're all on fold-out chairs, like they're at a school function or something. They're watching a show, and this is where the professor or whatever is going to make an appearance. But the first act, it's a dancer.
Well, the first act is some sort of comedian, or he's the MC.
Okay, but then doesn't he introduce
we don't ever see the stage.
A woman or something? We never see the stage.
So
we
all
only
we
see their reactions.
All we see is the brig next to the doctor and some of the audience. And so there's an MC, and then he says, the next thing is the dance of Scheherazade, and blah.
And the Brigadier gets a little
because the Brigadier
creepy.
gets really, really creepy. Yeah. It gets very excited,
and it's all dudes in the audience, from what I remember. And it's a very weird thing.
So I'm assuming that was like kind of like a striptease thing, which means that the professor who comes on afterwards to do the ESP thing was probably also stripping. Who's
curating this thing? What a weird set of performances.
I'm assuming it was like a primary school fundraiser.
Right. But they introduced this doctor character,
Professor,
for no real reason. Just the idea of ESP, and the doctor figures out that he's actually knows what he's doing because the professor tries to play it off like it's a goof, and then he's complaining that he can't stop the power. He's getting too much power. He's Dark Phoenixing. Like right in front of us. And then at the exact same time, they get a package from Joe. And the doctor's got a machine, by the way, that can read your thoughts. By the way, I was excited that we were going to get... I thought we were going to get Joe on the TV screen because the doctor was like, let him tell us. And I was like, oh, he's going to hold the letter, and then all of a sudden we're going to see Joe on the screen. It would have been cute. And it would have been nice because it was his final... That did not happen. Nope. But they go through all of that, just so he can look at the crystal and see the spiders on the TV and then die?
And they are so casual about the homicide that just happened. Well, maybe it's just manslaughter. But they are just...
Well, the Brigadier comes out, he's like, I paid off the cops, like, we don't need to worry. Like, the Brigadier has no time for local law enforcement. Like, later on when they're in pursuit, the cops like, I want a word with you guys. He's like, oh, shut up.
Get the hell out of here.
The adults are talking.
Seriously, the doctor and the Brigadier and Benton are just casually like drinking tea while this guy is rotting. It's dead. Real weird. I do love, this is going to be so much fun to make GIFs for, but
there's
that
a
whole
lot of
sequence of the professor with the headgear on. And
the same headgear from Terror of the Autons.
It looked exactly like that, which
they've been reusing that prop several times.
And Benton's quip doing a little hairdressing on the side was just loved it.
He's in it only to remind you there's a Yates and a Benton, but he doesn't have much of a...
He's just in the first episode or two, and that's it.
Yeah, it doesn't open either on this talent show, right? So we see... I think it opens on Yates, right? Yates sneaking around, watching this aggressive... Taking a stroll through
the countryside first as he's finding himself.
Yeah, sure. He's going through his Yates stuff. Yep. So they sneak into this weird house where and that's a dirty-looking group of guys meditating. That's an interesting...
It's the 70s.
And at one point we're on a different planet with like that, early era Fleetwood Mac, like that time when they first joined, before the 80s Fleetwood Mac. But yeah, so he's sneaking into the thing, and like then they hint at the spider. There's a spider web, and he walks into it like a dope.
Yeah.
I guess like they're communicating with what? So they're doing the aggressive meditation, and you've got an idea that ESP's real because that's why we see the talent show, and they're communicating with Metabelius 3 in the future. Or the spiders just constantly listening, and then they see a hole in space-time from this hardcore aggressive meditation, and then they're able to detect the crystal because at that same time, the doctor or the professor, I keep saying doctor, the professor his mind was expanded because he already had ESP, so the crystal expands your mind, and he became a beacon of energy. Like, they didn't need both of them. Like, it just seems strange, right?
Yeah, I mean, you said it before. There's a lot of coincidence that happens to set this up, but it's beyond coincidence. It's just contrived. You also said it is very contrived to set these things together, and it's fine. Like I like the mix of things. I like
all the things on their own are great, and I thought the meditation house was properly spooky and cool. Yeah. And I liked all of that stuff. I like that stuff a lot more than when we went to Metabelius 3.
I hated going to Metabelius 3.
I wish it was all in that sort of spooky house, and I wish they played more with the meditation aspect of it, and it could have been more like, what's that movie with the sleep deprivation tank? With, is it William Hurt is in it? Where he goes into the tank and then he keeps reverting back to his primal state, and then he comes out altered states.
Sure.
Okay, no one knows what I'm talking about. But that's I wish it was more of that stuff because they set up all this, meditation, mind power, superhuman beings, but they don't use any of it. I mean, the spider comes out, and the spider pretty much drives them.
Well, but that's also later explains how the spiders have become what they are, is that these crystals have
expand your mind,
to warp their minds and grow their minds and grow their bodies.
And then that guy who is very good at it, not the other guy who was very good at it, he gets crystal
Lupin,
time. And then he's able to shock the brain of the spider, and the spider's able to shock the brain of him, and the two of them become... Which, by the way, that would have been a great show if you could have had...
A little spin-off?
It's a little spin-off of,
Lupin and the Spider?
Lupin and the Spider this fall on TNT. Like, that would be
It'd be real
awesome.
good.
That's a missed opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. So that's like the first episode sort of establishes that whole thing in the spiders. But it was just hard to figure out, like, well, so they're using this, they're meditating to create a portal because they're trying to draw power from something. So they're trying to draw power from Metebelis 3, or they're just trying to draw power from the demon world, and they misdialed. They dialed a 1 instead of a 6, and now it's calling Metebelis 3. But
now that I think about it,
did they even need the freaking ESP guy?
But they're there to meditate, and they're, some people are there, like Yates, to kind of get over the dinosaurs. Other people are there for other reasons. Lupton's there because he was a senior sales manager who got fired. Now he wants to take over the world.
He doesn't look good. Lupton is sweating, and I couldn't tell, are they making him look awful, like he's going through some Percodan withdrawal, because he had a spider on his back, like the monkey on your back.
Oh, my.
Or was the actor going through some real stuff? Because he starts to really fall apart. He is super sweaty. Is it like are the lights too hot? Like, it's just the actor's in trouble, I think. I hope he was okay.
All the cinematography really focused on sweaty, oily people. And I think that's just what was going on.
But then we're not even... we didn't mention the simpleton either, right? So go on.
Is that what we're allowed to call?
I don't know. I was like, what? This is also offensive.
Yeah.
But was another trope from the time with, like an Of Mice and Men type thing where he's attracted to shiny objects, but the old simpleton through the window
but also very strong. Like, there's just all these weird tropes. Yeah.
Simple Jack, was that the Ben Stiller Tropic Thunder? Remember?
Oh, right, right. But so these people go to this country house to learn meditation for whatever their own reasons are, and to study with these 2 Tibetan monks who end up being actually one Time Lord and his projection of himself. So they're the ones that are helping them learn this meditation. Are they actually directing them to be able to open up this gate? What is their actual role in this? Because throughout it seems like these guys are kind of going rogue and doing their own thing and hiding it from the abbot and Jochi, but
yeah.
And I don't know if they're actually kind of directing it at the same time. Choji.
Yeah. It's hard to figure out the purpose of Joji. Is that what we're saying his name is?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's almost portrayed early on like he's going to be part of it. Like he's sort of the mastermind evil entity. But then quickly they're like, no, we're hiding it from him. And then it becomes less relevant or less obvious what his purpose is, other than just to drop these kind of pretentious
aphorisms.
Aphorisms about how can you be surprised if everything is new or whatever. It's okay, sure. I did like the fact that the doctor referenced the old hermit or whatever that he was talking to and learning. And I would like to see that story, like when the doctor's meditating and doing whatever he's doing. So that was okay. And
speaking of the hermit, though, that story seems really familiar. Have they told that story?
I feel like they did. Because I when he said that, too, I was like, I remember him mentioning something like that before. And I thought that was going to be the end of it. I did not realize that there was another character living in the attic that no one's talked to.
But I can't recall. Again, it's the problem of doing these things out of any sort of order. Was that in some other, I don't know, Pertwee era story, or was it somewhere? I don't have any idea where this came from.
He's mentioned it before on Gallifrey, there being someone.
Yeah, but we don't know. I don't know if we saw it in a story that came before this story, or we just saw it in a later story before we watched this story, or if it's in New Who.
It 100% could have been mentioned in a Tom Baker story referencing this story, so who knows? It doesn't matter. It's
good thing we don't watch them in order. Doesn't make any sense. Okay, so...
But to that character, you could have pulled him out and saved yourself the embarrassment of the racism, and just not had it.
There was no embarrassment.
Even need it. And honestly, you don't even really need Yates. I'm happy Yates is in it, but he doesn't really add anything
It was fun though. I really enjoyed the
him and
the kind of caper element of
Yes.
Sarah Jane and
Sarah
Yates.
Jane
Yates
is
brings
perfect.
Sarah to come
Yeah.
there. Sarah makes anything better.
Right.
But
No
the two of
surprise
them
she's
was
excellent
so
in
much
this.
fun. Creeping around the house.
Yeah.
They get scared and run away, and they go back and sneak back to the house. They can continue to do their exploit. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. And you're right. Like the whole setting in the house and all of that was great. It's the last two or three stories when they end up going to.
Yeah, so after we establish all the house stuff and Yates lets Sarah Jane in on what's going on, the Sarah Jane overhears, the guy's been possessed by the spider, and now he's going to, I think at this point, he's going to return to Metebelis 3 and pretend that he has the crystal, right? Because how do we
Tommy
refer
stole
to
it.
the guy? Tommy
Grabbed it from
has
the window
stolen it
and-
through the window because he's attracted to
Pretty
crystals.
things.
Oh, by the way, guess we get to the end. There's a whole thing about him expanding his mind, and he reads all these books. And other than Sarah saying, "You're normal now," which was a little weird. What was the point of him? I thought he was going to figure something out because he became like a super genius that was then going to solve something that they needed solving. No, it
He was
just
like a super genius who could also withstand all those.
yeah, because he has a big heart.
Emperor Palpatine beams coming at him,
Yes,
and he was
gets
fine.
electrocuted, but because he's so innocent, I think they say, right? His
Yeah.
power of innocence is a shield against this.
Right, they do say
energy.
that horribly.
And
yeah.
Yates's affection. No, what was it? Yates's thing? Because there's like a Yates.
his
Sarah Jane
sacrifice.
thing
It was
or whatever.
yeah, whatever it was. But
It's fine. But they establish all this stuff like, okay, he's going to become really smart, read all these books. I thought he was going to read a book that explained something that was important, but it's not that story. He's just in it because that's a cool thing.
I guess. Yeah.
What
was
were we
weird.
saying? Oh, yeah. So all that stuff happens. That guy has it in his box of trinkets. They go to Metebelis 3, and Sarah Jane overhears it, and she tells the guy, "I'm going to the basement, and I'm going after Leighton," right? Or whatever his name is.
Lupton.
Lupton, which then gets played in a loop later.
Oh my god! And it's
Several
like-
times.
Yes.
Several times.
It goes on a long time. It's great.
They bought themselves 5 minutes on that loop.
The
Because I think
version.
he's in the library, like we're looking up words and whatever, and then he just remembers that thing. Yeah. So then you're right. So at that point, we move to the Fleetwood Mac, the Manson compound. We are in Death Valley.
I really hate the
It is
whole.
a Spawn Ranch. Some of the costumes were pretty interesting, but we didn't need to be there.
We didn't. I mean, there was nothing wrong with it per se. We just didn't need to be there. And the whole. There's so much use of green screen that was just so over the top.
it's a
There was
lot.
something about it. It was oversaturated.
I
It felt
shan't.
even more phony than normal. And the whole like the 2 legs and the 8 legs and all that.
Don't say
Just-
spider. And the
You can't
mother,
say
like,
spider.
really acting her heart out there.
Oh,
I
yeah.
shan't.
I thought she was actually
She was fine.
But she was.
They were
but
fine.
She
was fine.
acting
The
in a
dad-
completely different story. That like
Yeah,
she was
no.
somewhere else.
She was giving it her all. And then most of the cast there, at least the father, he has some lines, and then he spends the rest of his run in a sleeping bag that looks like spider webs. Also, Sarah Jane, as great as she is, also spends a whole episode in a sleeping bag. It's all fine. I just didn't like that part as much. You
Right.
got Pertwee fight again. You mentioned getting the vehicles. You got the vehicles. You got to get Pertwee fighting, and he spends a good amount of time beating up the guards of the spider lady.
Repeatedly, like there's a
Yeah.
number of fight sequences, and it's just Pertwee saying more. I want more
Yeah.
Venusian judo. I need more options to
He
do
gets more of that, and then he gets knocked out. That becomes a thing, and then they're trapped sort of on Metebelis 3. Meanwhile, the spiders, there's a little bit of a infighting, because the spider that has come to Earth and has possessed Lupton,
this. Yeah,
he or she, and it's hard to tell the difference.
All
They all
ladies.
sound the
All
same. So is
ladies.
it one hive mind? No.
No.
But it also, was it the same actress? Don't know. Unclear. So she's going to sort of turn against the queen, and there's a whole lot of meetings with a whole bunch of spiders, and everyone yelling every time they say, was it the Great One or whatever? They all got to say it. That was a little annoying.
I kind of liked the animatronic. I guess they're not really animatronics; they're just little puppets of the spiders, though.
Yeah, they were fine. They were fine.
Not bad.
The model. I have no, people
What does your
complain
dog
about
think about
the.
it?
I don't know. The dog's got a problem with the spider, the way the spider is. He's like, they could have just, played a little bit more with them, or made them all unique looking, or something.
Something. Put them in little robes, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe a
little cute
crown
robes
for the queen.
Yep. And so while this is all going on, right? I'm trying to remember the incel group that's in the basement of the pizzeria. They all get possessed too, right? Because there's an invasion, right?
Invasion
so there's
of spiders. Yep.
That's also confusing, right? So they want to invade Earth, but the queen says she doesn't want to invade Earth. But then you're like, oh, she's just lying to get the crystals. But is she? Like, I don't know. I felt like the invasion part of it. I don't know. It's fine. Everything's fine.
It was at the very least, it was convoluted and unclear, which happens when you get into these 6-part stories.
Because the history of Metebilius 3, we had last been on Metebilius 3, the Doctor and Sarah Jane. Not me and you, Dan, but the Doctor and Sarah Jane, right, in the Metebilius 3's past timeline. And I don't even remember that, but we did it. We 100% did that story. Don't remember what story it was, but we've been on this planet before. When he takes the crystal, right? I guess it was Joe and... Yeah, it must have been Joe and the Doctor. That's why she sends him the crystal. And then, now, this is the future timeline of Metebilius 3 after a Earth astronauts crashed with a spider inside. So it's like a Peter Parker thing, except instead of Peter changing, the spider changes. The spider absorbs the crystal energy, becomes super smart, and then takes over the planet, right? Yes. Okay. Why? I don't know why I would.
I don't remember.
I had a point at some.
There's all this reference to Metebilius, and it's apparently in the Green Death, and we did the Green Death so long ago. Yes. I don't remember a damn thing about it.
The Green Death had to do with worms, right? It was like an environmental message, and they were polluting, and the worms were changing. But I don't remember what it had to do with Metebilius 3. I thought it took place on Earth. Doesn't matter. I'm sure it is connected. But I remember the Doctor kept having to go to Metebilius 3, right? And so he did go. And that was one thing I liked. I liked more than one thing, but that was one of a few things that I liked. Was the Doctor's little speech about greed. And his greed was also a little bit like, yeah, I have a problem. I'm too smart. Or my problem is I care too much. He had that little moment. But I like the way Pertwee delivered that bit on greed. When he's talking to...
talking to Abbott?
Abbott, yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. That was fine.
Just look back here. The reason I can't remember the Green Death is it was the 10th story.
Yeah, it was a long time
It's so
ago.
Old, it's actually not even in our current
and we're currently
podcast
on
feed.
128. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to see that story, you have to go to the website. If you want to hear our review, you have to go to the website and listen to it there.
Now, Green Death was the last time we saw Jo Grant, because she got married, right, to that hippie professor.
Right.
And she's on adventures, too, which is kind of cool.
She's on her own journey.
She's on her own journey.
But
so then the what happens? The queen then takes over Sarah Jane's body.
Yeah.
And sends her back to Earth to get the crystal while the incels are possessed by the other spiders.
Yeah.
And they're also looking for the crystal. Yep. So it's a big crystal run.
It's a crystal party.
But once the spiders want the crystal, or the eight-leggeds, I'm sorry to insult you out there.
Don't say that word.
This is like a spider right now throwing her headphones down like, this podcast sucks. What was I saying? Oh, they're getting a perfect crystal so that she could get smarter?
Yeah. So she's in this cave of crystals that is going to kill you if you stay there too long and destroy you cell by cell. But she's constructed this crystal web that amplifies her thoughts so that she can take over the entire universe, but it's missing just one piece, the perfect crystal.
piece that
and it has to be
missing.
happens to be that one perfect crystal. Again,
I guess so.
Wow, what great
I guess
serendipity
so.
it was that happened. And once she gets that in place, it creates a feedback loop, and she gets smarter and smarter, and burns her brains out and blows the place to smithereens.
Yep.
So that's cool.
And
But
also kills
they
the doctor in the process, right? And
kills all the other spiders, and like they were sprayed with Raid. They're all flipped over with their legs all twitching, and then the doctor is also going to die until.
And Sarah Jane, we've skipped her part. So
Oh, yes.
she has to overcome her own identity, or she has to, fight because she's possessed by the queen.
Recognize she is free.
And she looks into the crystal, and she gets a very long, extended cut scene between the light and her face, and the light and her face and her light, and she's fighting back and forth with I am me and you are you or whatever, and she finally
my mother, my sister.
yeah she also, hey, if you like Chinatown, I would say there's a lot of Chinatown the Batman energy
In
there
this?
as well. Yes. What were you saying? Oh yeah, she kills the spider and the spider dies. It's all fine. It's all fine. Not the greatest story, but there's
It's
so
fun,
many
though, for the
things
most
that are
part.
funny about it. And if you
Yeah.
want to goof on some stuff, you want to see Pertwee in a flying car, which
Oh
looks
man,
like a
the
different.
Whomobile flies too.
Yeah, it
What?
looks like a different vehicle, I guess, because of the lighting when it's flying in the studio versus the
Yeah. I
exterior
mean, it's
shots.
not the best special effects shot, but like
Yeah, we
the
talked about the
Whomobile-
homeless
First
guy.
of all, I forgot the Whomobile is supposed to be a hovercraft because I feel like you can clearly see its wheels, even though it's
Yeah.
trying to be hidden underneath kind of the side. So it then Lupton gets in the gyrocopter and it takes off, and the spider's going to steer it because it seems simple enough. And so he takes off, and then the Whomobile flies into the air. It's just so silly.
I love
It's
that.
Great,
I mean,
but it's
we
silly.
The whole chase, you could have cut the whole chase, but I'm
But you
glad we
couldn't.
have it
But you
because it's so dumb. Because like they're in pursuit of this person, and the doctor makes him take him to the helicopter, which they're losing so much time with that, just so he could fly in the thing. And like it's so many. I'm surprised there wasn't a scene where he had to put a jetpack on and fly away. But it was great. And then to switch to the hovercraft.
I
And then he
loved it.
gets to the hover. And there's the whole thing where I guess they're saying if you meditate enough, you can control reality where you can teleport. Because all of a
Why
sudden
is everyone just able to
teleporting is
teleport
a
everywhere
thing.
now? Sarah Jane can do it without the like. Lupton was doing it because of the spider on his back, and Spider actually did it. But then Sarah Jane's on Metabilius, and the spider teaches her how to do it. And she's like, "It's actually nothing to it."
Well, I guess
Now
because
she
the
can
spider
teleport.
the spider's doing it, right? Because the spider's in her, just like the spider was in Lupton.
Oh, and she was just saying that. Okay, I'm dumb. You're right.
Right?
That's right. It
But-
wasn't revealed at that point that that's what happened.
But were they
You're right.
saying, like, if you make your mind large enough, we all can do that? Because it's
Sure.
like you can see the code in the machine.
teleportation?
I don't know.
Telekinesis.
I just thought that was very
psychometry.
strange. Like, all of a sudden there's like a teleport portion aspect of
Yeah.
it. So why are the spiders even crawling at all? Just teleport to wherever you need to go.
I mean, they do sometimes, like in cases where it
Yeah,
feels
they,
like
they
it would have
fade
been
in and out.
difficult to do it in the production to get the spider to crawl across the room. They just say, it'll teleport.
Well,
instead."
here's the thing. When you think of spiders, you
Yep.
think of creepy, crawly things, or you're gonna like even Yates in the beginning, like walking into a spider web. That's frightening. They
Sure.
have spiders in this story, and never once play with the spider nature of spiders. You could have replaced the spiders with anything.
Yeah.
There's nothing spidery about them. They're never like used.
Could have been aardvarks.
Yeah,
Should have been
it was
aardvarks,
like
maybe,
why
arguably.
why spiders at all?
No.
No one
Because they're
gets
scary.
webbed. I mean, they do get webbed in those sleeping bags, but
Sure.
no one's like getting webbed. They're getting electrocuted.
They get webbed in the sleeping bags, but they keep their face uncovered and put blanket pillows underneath
Right.
their heads. Like they're just really comfy.
They're
so
very
they're
kind.
considerate.
Yeah, they're
I
very
guess.
kind.
I don't
It
know
was
what else
kind
there
of
is
a
to say.
mess, I guess. It was kind of a mess, but
A couple of things that I found interesting as I was doing a little reading about this
Oh.
afterwards. From the DVD commentary, apparently Terrence Dix remarked he wanted to make sure the Brigadier was present for the regeneration. We didn't really talk about the regeneration, which we should get to.
Oh, yeah, and the fact that
he
they
wanted-
define regeneration.
Yes,
in
this is the first time I actually call it regeneration. But he wanted the Brigadier to be there to see it happen, so that they could avoid the whole spearhead from space, where it takes like whatever it is, 50 episodes until the Brigadier can be convinced that it really is the Doctor. So it's like, let's not let that happen again. He's going to be there, and the Brigadier's line of "Well, here we go again" was ad-libbed, which was
it's great.
Wonderful. Those
Yeah.
are two really great things. But yeah, so going back,
the Brigadier has great lines in this.
he's wonderful. I mean, yes, he's always wonderful.
There's another time when, I don't know if it's when they're talking about ESP or they're talking about some other thing, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's a lot clearer now," because it was like some convoluted dumb answer. But his delivery is always great. But go on.
He's wonderful. Yeah, so we have 2 Time Lords in this story. They both get to regenerate. I guess that Chochi is the projection of the Abbot, but is also the incarnation that he's going to become. Whatever.
Well,
It's
all of a
fine.
sudden, Time Lords can literally project
This one can.
a full talking thing that is like that was a little bit like, who else can
And
do
to
that?
your
The
point,
Master's
we did
never
not
done
need
that.
him. We did. It could have just been the Abbot the entire
Yes.
time, and it would have been fine. There was
Would've
no
been fine.
need for 2 actors there. So we get that. We get he has to give the Doctor a little push to get the regeneration going for some reason. I was hoping for a little bit more of being able to see Tom Baker in this one, but apparently this is we didn't get to. Well, obviously we didn't get to see Troughton turn into Pertwee. He just fell out of the TARDIS and onto the ground. We did see Hartnell turn into Troughton, so this is the
Right,
second
and we
time
saw
get to see that
Pertwee
happen.
turn into Tom Baker and Robot, right? I think Robot starts with this scene, from what I remember. We did Robot. Robot's not great, but I think we do.
So we get to.
I think it
come
literally
right into
is
that
the
was
same
that was
scene.
our 12th review
a
story.
long time ago.
So, who knows? Anyway, but that was it was cool to see, like, okay, this is where that mythology is. Like, we know that it is a thing, but now it's getting more defined and explained to some extent. What was the? Okay, I forgot about this. So on Metabilius, the Doctor at a cliffhanger, he gets shocked to death as he's reaching for the TARDIS. They grab him and bring him back into
that
hiding.
scene is weird.
It is very weird. But he tells Sarah Jane to go get some device from inside the TARDIS, but it's just a MacGuffin device. Like, it can do whatever you need it to. He got it, and Sarah Jane wasn't there, and one of the locals grabs it.
Yeah,
and gives it to him.
but that whole scene is very strange, right? So the Doctor is killed or whatever,
Sure.
and then but no one checks or anything, and then the Spider Lady's like, "Let's get out of here." And then it's like you see Sarah Jane hiding. Somehow she's like put on an outfit.
Yeah.
And then the next scene is like night, and then she's go. It just seems strange that the spiders didn't take the body away with them, or checked if he's still alive, or it's and it's the
one
cut
of those things
is weird.
The baddies just assume, he's dead. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
And they
Don't
leave his
decapitate
bag.
him.
He's already got his bag out there. They're not going to look through the bag for some stuff. It's all
But the
fine.
device itself, he
All right, I
cranks
guess that's
it and
when
it
they
goes
took Sarah Jane.
"Roar," and it like shocks him, and he's okay.
Yeah.
But it's also a device that can read stones.
Yep.
And then it's also sort of like a shield.
Oh, that whole the stone reading thing was also dumb. He's just going through, and it's like, meh, 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 woo! And then they get these cool headbands. Cool headbands.
Cool
sure.
headband.
But they don't actually really work. I mean, I guess they work a little bit, but they all get captured. That whole crew is evil when the Doctor sees them again. So did they work that well? I don't know.
I don't think so. Anyway, it was just
What
the thing I noted.
What is the lightning power? Is the lightning power psychic energy? Right?
Sure.
And the spiders have reformed their slaves' brains to be able to do psychic energy.
I guess.
And the
It's
Doctor's
unclear.
not protected in some way the way Yates is. Yates is protected from this blast, but not the Doctor. I don't know. It's fine.
It's fine. All of this is fine.
It's all good.
It's just one of those things like, what is this device for? And then you just know in modern Who that just would have been something that the Sonic can do now.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, okay, it's just the Sonic. They just had to use some other device instead because they weren't using the Sonic, but they had to, whatever. Silly. Eric, is there anything else in this?
No.
Oh, apparently it was supposed to be for Pertwee's final bow here. it would have been him and the Master in a similar type of story, but Delgado had died previously, so they had to kind of rewrite the whole thing. So not much of this really remained, but it was going to be.
So was this a story that existed, and then they just repurposed the ending into it, or
the whole thing was
written specifically for his last story?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I think because Delgado had died, they had wrote a whole thing.
Gotcha.
But they were going to have the Master die in this story as well as.
I gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah,
well, that's too bad. It would have been good to see Delgado.
A more a conscious kind of send off for the Master would have been nice, but that's what it was.
It's fine. It was not. It's not a. Individually, scenes are so absurd that you can certainly get joy out of them. But as a story, I don't think it's super good. Right? I don't know.
No, I agree. I mean, overall, it was fun, but it wasn't.
It was fun. It was fine, and it was always. It's always. I always like Pertwee, and he's always enjoyable. And him being able to karate chop and knock people out and do all that stuff, my heart grows 3 sizes bigger because he seems to be having so much fun with it, and all of his spy stuff, and being in the helicopter, and you can just tell he's loving it.
Yep.
So it's good.
Very good. Let's see if there's...
Send this fool away. The spider tells that guy to get rid of that guy twice.
Yeah.
There's no
time he's
reason
kind of like
for any of it.
Nice about it, and the second time he's just like, get out of here. That's good. Okay, so that's what.
Remember when the incels are talking and the guy's like, maybe we should just leave or whatever, and the guy's like, well, tell that to the cops. And then one of the guys is like, but we didn't actually do anything. And he has a valid point. What would the cops arrest them for?
We're just being
chanting,
creepy, dude.
Right?
Nothing illegal, just creeps. They could arrest people for being creeps. None of us would have gotten here. Eric, there's nothing else to say about this one.
No, I think
except what our listeners may have said.
Oh, good.
So thank you for those of you who did reply on the.
Yeah, we switched up the days on us because normally we do a Sunday review, but my wedding anniversary is tomorrow, which I didn't realize. I didn't even realize we were recording this weekend because that's how I
didn't realize you were married.
I am married for 20 years, Dan. Jesus,
that's a long time.
Oh,
that's almost as long as we've been doing this podcast.
Yeah, almost.
Well, congratulations in advance to you.
So thank you. So yeah, we switched it up. So you probably didn't have a lot of time to write in. So
yeah, but those of you who did. We appreciate it. You can always get to us on TODW Show on the Twitters and the Instagrams. On Twitter, we got some people saying a couple of things about this one. Jay Bamanus, he even puts out the pronunciation there, and I never say it right. One incident in this story is possibly the worst acting in all of Who, but this is still one of my favorite series. One incident in this story is possibly the worst acting in all of Who. Which incident is that? They don't spell it out. Which bit of acting?
There's a lot of bad acting in it.
Sure, but the worst in all of Who?
It's got to be the portrayal of the Tibetan monk or Tibetan.
Well, I mean that's not just
all
bad
of
acting.
His
that's
stuff
bad.
Is awful.
That's just poor decision.
I'm going to go with that. That's my final answer.
Sounds good.
We can call a friend. So it's not stated in this feedback, so it's a mystery.
Nope. It's a mystery.
I think
everyone
I'm right.
Everyone has to state your own worst piece of acting in this story. But this is still one of my favorite serials. It's a 6-parter, but moves decently, with lots of scene changes. Also, I love that it crams in all things 70s.
Yes.
Yes. Very, very much all things 70s. And Pertwee with multi-vehicle chases, fight scenes, meditation, alien worlds. It's like they wanted to get it all in one last time before the new guy came on the scene, and I think they really pulled it off. Yeah, I mean, it felt like
they did
complete present to Pertwee the whole way through.
Yeah.
Which
you have every possible thing that you could want pretty much happening in this.
Oh, follow up tweet from says, which incident is the worst acting in all of Who? ? You'll know it when you see it. Apparently, we don't because
I think it's that guy.
There's a number of, but I mean that's not the worst acting. It's just the worst production decision. What is the worst acting in this one? Gosh, I don't know. Okay, well, maybe you'll have to let us know later after you tell us, and we'll reply next time. Let's see. Our friend Paul Paranoid says, if ever there was a Doctor Who that needed a George... Oh, this is talking about a previous, about Invasion of the Dinosaurs, which is relevant to the story since it got Gates all messed up. Paul says, if ever there was a Doctor Who that needed a George Lucas special edition to make over, it's this one. It's a solid serial, but for the dinosaurs, which aren't even up to the level of the Chewits advertisement in the dinosaur. Oh, we're rereading it. Someone just happened to mention this one before. Okay. Anyway, sorry. You can skip all that, Eric. Feel like you want to cut that out?
You're leaving
cut
it
it out. Fine,
that's how we operate. Dan,
Okay.
did you mention... Do we have more things?
We have a couple more things.
Oh, okay.
Just a couple.
Make sure we don't forget about our Christmas card we got.
Okay.
Holiday card.
James H., who apparently says long COVID sucks. Sorry to hear that, friend. By the time you take out the entire episode of padding and the overly long and suspiciously re-edited recap at the beginning of episode 6, it turns into a nifty 4-part story. We just don't mention certain acting. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we're just talking about the performance,
that,
but it's not
freaking Tibetan guy.
It's not bad.
It's bad.
Yes, it is
it's
bad.
bad.
But it's
bad,
not just the acting. It is
offensive.
I wouldn't limit it to the actor. The actor was doing a job.
No,
poorly,
I would say the
but doing a
actor.
job. It shouldn't
Fine,
have been
but the actor
hired.
was also
Shouldn't have been
making that
cast.
choice to do that voice.
Yeah, it's worse.
He may
worse
not
than
have
Mickey
been the
Rooney
person
in
that said,
Breakfast
"Put
at
this
Tiffany's.
makeup on me," but that voice was.
It's bad. Yeah.
voice.
Okay. All right. Fine. I just would have categorized that as just bad decision making overall.
Yeah,
all parties
it
involved.
can't all
but
fall
sure.
on the actor. Obviously, everybody's just trying to do what they're told. So I'm sure someone said, "You gotta
Eric,
do it
Are you
this
saying
way."
they were just following orders? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, look at
Oh, boy.
what is it? What was the other one? The Chiang, or what was it called?
Oh, the
Talons of Wang Chang. That's also terribly offensive. It's not. This is not. This is. We're not gonna. This isn't the last time we're gonna see that.
Nope. And last tweet here, Stephen Alexander says, it's funny the Third Doctor misses his final showdown with the Master. Ah, that's what we're referring to. But this story doesn't really need him. I like it's not his archenemy who brings Pertwee down, but his arrogance. Yeah, or as he said, his own greed, which is pretty great. So
I want to learn too much.
He just this thirst for knowledge. We also got an email from our friend Paul Paranoid.
Oh,
you
hey,
can
Paul.
email us at theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com, and we will read what you send us. Paul says, well, it's finally here after 7 years and 126 episodes of The Old Doctor Who Show. And what a story to go out on. Spiders, Buddhism, Mike Yates, the Time Lord intervention, regeneration. It's also technically the first Tom Baker story. And like the Abominable Snowman, in no way contradicts the theory that alien intelligences are not somehow involved in the religion of Buddhism. Ugh. All around a fabulous end to the Pertwee run, and also a great way to end the old Doctor Who show's glorious run. Wait a minute, are we done?
Yeah.
Is this the last? Are we not doing
We're
any
done.
more stories?
No, we have several other stories.
Paul, I hate to break it to
unfortunately.
you, but we got. Oh man, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 or 10 more stories to go.
Yeah,
so
we got a lot. We're not done,
got-
and each one of those is 3 weeks. So pack
Oh,
a
you
lunch.
got weeks
We're
and
going to be
weeks and
here
weeks to
till
go.
October or something like that.
Oh right. Well, we got that. So Eric, you mentioned something we don't want to forget here. What did
Yeah,
we
we
get?
got. I have not been checking our P.O. Box. Although I will check the P.O. Box. Don't think that you can't send something to P.O. Box 2131? P.O. Box. What is it, Dan? P.O. Box 2131, Red Bank, New Jersey 07701. You can send a self-addressed stamped envelope, and I will send you some stickers. I think we have some stickers. I usually keep them on my desk, and I don't see them now, so I don't know where they are. But I will find some for you and send them to you. But we got a nice Christmas card, and I think we get a Christmas card from Paul, not Paul Paranoid. This is, I can't see very good, Dan. I think it's PWARING on Twitter. So thank you, Paul, for always
Paul's,
thinking of us. It's very nice. So we just
giving us a lot
literally
of
just got
feedback
this.
over
So
the
if you
time.
sent it probably all the way back in November, it took this long to reach us here in New Jersey.
In the colonies. Yeah, thank you so much for that. That was very
Yeah, it's
very
very
nice of you.
nice.
So if you have anything else you want to send us or ask for stickers, like Eric said, you can send it to the P.O. Box there. You can always reach us by email at theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com or visit us on our site at theolddoctorwhoshow.com. You can see entire list of stories we've reviewed. The podcast feed shows the most recent 100 stories, but everything else is there on the site. You can follow us on TODW Show on Twitter and Instagram. Both places will put up some GIFs from this one. I'm looking forward to seeing what my brain comes up with for this 6-parter.
Yeah, there's a lot of funny,
weird stuff.
Facial expression, goofy GIFs that I think would make good reaction GIFs to certain scenarios.
We will definitely see if I can find them.
And if you are new to this podcast, or if you are old to this podcast and have just been ignoring me, you know you can go to realmofgoblin.com right now and place an order for the graphic novel Goblin that I wrote with beautiful art by Will Perkins. You can get that right now. Art. If you're in the States here and you order it on a place like Amazon, you get next day delivery. It goes right to your place. People in the UK, you can get that on Amazon as well, but also I think in bookstores. And for folks in the Czech Republic, if you're listening, at some point, I think you'll see a copy of the book there. But more on that later. But yeah, thank you for that. And you can follow me on Twitter at eGrissom, and Dan, of course, at DanJNJ on Twitter. That's also my Instagram account, as it is yours, right?
Your Instagram account is at DanJNJ?
Yes, it is.
Oh, well, that's fine. Mine's eGrissom. That's so strange. Follow us all over the places.
Yeah, you can follow us all. And tell people about it. Leave us a review. We didn't get any iTunes reviews in the U.S. store. But
you can review us wherever you'd like to, just to help other people find our
Let people know
show.
About the show.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think of our Sandman discussion. Even if it means you never want to hear us blowing up the first part of the...
Either way, tell us if you like it. If you don't like it, doesn't matter, because when the Netflix series starts, I have a feeling we'll be talking more about it. So
yeah, it's probably going to happen.
Enjoy. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
For listening, folks.
Yeah. Are we done?
I think we're done.
Okay.
He is our hero.
Get rid of Spider.
Step on Spider.
Spider.
We love you, Spider.
I promise not to kill you. Spider. Spider.
We love you, Spider.
Spider. Get rid of Spider. Must stop Spider.
He is our hero.
Where's my robot? You know?